Hello everybody, today's little video is going to be about these two buildings on the Mississippi River, and I watched it on this channel here. He's called This House. I am now subbed and like it, and I have taken a little bit of his footage, and then me and Christian are going to talk about it. But basically go and watch this video on his channel and sub to his channel. And I just found this thing, I met these buildings amazing. Let's get into what he's saying, and then me and Christian are going to talk about it.
Hi everyone, my name is Ken. Welcome to This House. Today we are at the Chain of Rocks Bridge just north of St. Louis, Missouri, exploring these water intake towers and Old Route 66. Towering from the wake of the Mississippi River are a pair of mysterious towers. But why are they here, and what is their purpose? Let's find out. In the late 1800s, as the city of St. Louis experienced rapid population growth, a solution was needed to provide more water for the inhabitants. The city began searching for a location upstream from the industrial plants. Here they found a mostly natural chain of rocks that created a very shallow section in the Mississippi River. The decision was made to create a water intake tower in the Mississippi River to pump water and send it into the city. At this time, the residents of St. Louis were used to drinking water and bathing in the murky water that came from the river, so drawing more water from the river seemed to be the obvious answer. In 1894, William S. Ames designed Water Intake Tower No. 1 on an oval platform in the Romanesque style. The tower is still in use to this day by the St. Louis Water Works and pumps water through a 7-foot wide pump to the Chain of Rocks plant. As the population continued to grow, a second water intake tower would be added in 1915. This tower was designed by Roth and Studdy, who were inspired to build it in the Roman Renaissance style. Unlike the first water intake tower, this one would be designed with living quarters to house 24/7 workers. The workers were responsible for controlling how much water would be drawn from the river and sent to the plant. Today, the tower is still in use by the city as a backup to Water Intake Tower No. 1. However, it is no longer occupied nor ran by workers, as all systems have been electronically automated. Both of these towers were designated as city landmarks in 1971.
Hey, I'm here with Christian. Say hello, Christian. Say hello.
Hello.
Christian, I know you haven't seen the video. I probably should have sent it to you, but it's just a few minutes long. You've heard it a couple of times. And this guy is explaining about where they put these and why they put these and how wide the pipe is. But look how far away the town is. They will have to have piped the water all the way there. This wasn't just a little tiny job. This was a big job.
I know. It's I'd say it's huge because you've got to think of all the equipment involved and how far it's got to go. It's no small feat, is it?
I mean, that town's got to be at least a mile or two away.
It's got to be. Probably 2, I'd say.
Amazing buildings. Hang on, we're just going to go back to one. Hang on. You know, it reminds me of as well, Christian. It's not the same shape, but it's the same kind of thing as those spit forts out in the sea.
Yeah, and the actual tower that you showed me looks like the very old style of, you know, your Maiden's Castle or Rapunzel's Tower. You know, so how long are we talking about? Because we're told that's the mythological age, isn't it? You know, the very early ages. And they're saying it was built in the 1800s, but yeah, it looks like something from 1,000 years plus.
It looks a bit like, when you see it like that, you're thinking, is that Avalon, or is that,
yeah,
you know, what's the other one that we Atlantis or something, because it's all sort of magical.
Yeah, I think that's the direction I was heading, like the old magical realm.
This one's still working.
We're told in fairy tales.
This one is still working, and then, one second, and this one is not got anybody living in it anymore, but what it is that he says that that's a backup. If the other way, if they need more energy, more power, whatever, that's a backup. Or the other one goes wrong, sorry, that's a backup. And it's really crazy because, you know, I'm going to stick this halfway in, so some of it will have been said and some of it he's still got it to say. But he says that these buildings are in this Romanistic style.
Well, Well, to me, it doesn't look Roman whatsoever. I mean, it's like we say, it looks the fairy tale Rapunzel Tower.
Have you seen the other one, Christian? There's two.
Yeah, I think I did see the other one, but it's only a small picture of it.
I mean, to be honest, it looks like it's laid out a bit like a church. It's got a bit at the front, bit at the back, and then the house in the middle. I mean, that could have had maybe, I don't know, maybe it's always looked like that. I don't know. It's just again, it's built out of the water like the spit fort.
And you begin to wonder what's actually
Oh my
powering.
goodness! You don't think those spit forts in the Solent then are actually pumps?
Could well be, and they supplied water to the mainland. Oh, I see.
Oh, well if these are pumps, then maybe lots of pumps.
Wow.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that, had you?
No, but it seems likely now that perhaps at one time the actual area was just running water, as in river water, and now
They are in a river.
the spit forts of the.
No, sorry, the two in America, in Illinois, they're in a river. Hang on a second,
Yeah, I know that,
we'll just get a picture of them if everybody doesn't know what we're talking about. Right, just Christian can't see this, but these are there's three spit forts out there by Southampton. Maybe these are not what they say they are, because they made them into military things, so they say with things, but you know, for these wars. But maybe they're water things.
Water towers
Water towers.
that pump water to the mainland.
I mean, we used to join the Isle of Wight. It's become an island.
That's amazing. And that's exactly what it could have been back in at some point in time. Thinking about it now. And they're quite in line as well, aren't they? When you think about it, where
One
they
second,
are.
I'll just get a picture of that up, Christian. So, we've got Southampton in here, and the ferries are going off. There's one there, and one there. And we used to adjoin to the Isle of Wight. So maybe they were water towers. They were turning seawater into fresh water.
Yeah, it seems like it could be what the case was, but we don't know the time frame. But it could be what the case was, that they were desalinating plants, one to the other, purifying the water as they went along. It could well be.
1 second. There you go. That's the order they've got them there, but that's not the kind of order you see them in the sea. But they're saying there's one there, and one there. And there's the Isle of Wight. But obviously, Isle of Wight used to join to us, so this would have been land, probably when they made them.
Yeah, I reckon that's probably the case. I think pre-flood, it must have been different, but we don't know the actual time frame of the Tartarian
Yeah,
flood.
but you know what? I did a video last night, Christian, with the piers, and in fact, I can probably because I've got you just look at when they made the piers. They'll say you'll start now, and this guy goes backwards, right, and picks up the oldest photographs he can of what it is, whether it's a bridge or a pier or something like that, or even whatever, and you can see how much it's changed. But with the piers, because they were made in the 1800s, the sea level has not changed.
Yeah.
So this
Not as far as we know.
happened before that.
Yeah, I mean, they've been telling us, or Al Gore told us that sea levels would rise by 2013. Well, in fact, we know that sea levels haven't risen, but actually dropped slightly. So that's phony pony. But
it's not
Oh,
showing.
no.
It's not showing Ryde on here. I can't remember where Ryde is. If it's down here or it's up here somewhere, but it's not showing it. But on the Isle of Wight is the oldest pier, and I've done a video about that. It's 1814. So that pier has
Wow.
been there since then. So it's got to be. I still think it's back to Elizabeth I.
very odd. Very odd.
Well, that's not really that long
That's
ago
true,
to
isn't
have.
it?
If you go back to Elizabeth I, and then I think they've been infiltrating people in since, you know, like populating America, populating Australia, populating. There obviously wasn't many people here, or there wasn't any people here. So that started happening in the 1700s. But so much as, you know, like like that guy, the King Nico. He's saying, they were always here, these buildings. But then I told you, Christian, although they are magnificent. I mean, we're going. Hang on 1 second. 1 second. We're going back to this. Hang on. We'd really like to know the timeline of these places. What I'm saying is, when you think about what they did in the time when they built these, even if it's the 1800s, they managed to put this great big thick pipe in there that pumped, what was it? It was 7 meters wide or something, and then pump it all the way back to that town, which is about, could be 3 or 4 miles away, but it's at least a couple of miles away. How did they do all that? And in a way, it's magnificent, but the buildings don't look modern, Christian. They still look old.
Well, this is why it makes me laugh, that if they're saying that it was built in the 1800s, right? Now, you've got to remember, if it's a river, so did they have horse and cart to build these places?
The water does go out a bit, so they obviously could build it when the water went out. Although it's a river, when you start it, the tide is out, or the river's gone out a bit, and then it comes back in, and then it goes out. You can see then they obviously could then do stuff when the river was low. But you know what? The one the one that I did the other day, where it was Henry VIII built it, and that's amazing in itself. And they've changed that. That was probably another water pump then.
Yeah. I was just going to say, what gets me in that video is the very start of it, where he says they found some shaped rocks which they decided to build upon, or these shaped rocks, whether the foundations are something else.
What, he said that, did he?
Me straight away. Yeah.
Probably.
And I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, there's something not quite right with that as well, And then he goes on, it's Romanesque. Well, it's not Romanesque, is it? It's more like mythology of the fantasy world that we're told as kids, like Rapunzel, let your hair down.
One of them's a bit like that, the first one that was built. But they're still built a bit like the Spitforts, it's still, obviously, I bet it's the same technology, but they were able to do that. And we don't, they're saying the Spitforts were built in the 1800s, but I don't believe that. And they had to be there before whatever flood happened. But when it did happen, it's got to be before the 1800s, because the piers have been there and they're still there and there's no water rising.
Strange, isn't it? Very bizarre. But I mean, it goes back to like that guy finding them tunnels just recently.
What, down in Devon?
He found the one in America, which is also near a river, and it's a tunnel, and I think they got to about 16 meters in. And they stopped digging. I don't know why they stopped. I would have carried on to see where it leads to, and that's a brick tunnel as well. And when you think of that, the extent of it, and just that length and the amount of bricks that were used to build it, you think, well, hang on a minute, wasn't America established in 1776? It's all quite crazy. So,
well, these bricks are not red brick, are they? These are grey stone.
Well, some of them look painted, but. Yeah, it's a different type of rock, isn't it? It's more like the stuff you find in Scotland.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and the actual building looks ancient, like we're taught in mythology. You're not talking about Roman. It's nothing like
They've
Roman.
got windows as well.
Yeah, it's a totally different build. When you go up to Scotland, you'll find that there's probably buildings like it in Scotland that resemble that, but I wouldn't say they were Roman. Not at all. We've come to establish what Roman or Greco looks like, or Romanesque.
Well, every time you see something, you think, oh, I found out so much information, and I keep telling you these things, they keep coming to me at the moment. I'm sorry, you can't. That had a 7-meter pipe built in it, even if it's the 1800s, and I think it's obviously earlier than that, and they're lying again, and I ain't buying.
Is that the width? 7-meter width?
He said 7-meter pipe or something, which they've piped all the way to that town.
Well, if it's 7 meter, that's if it's made out of metal, that's a lot of. This is what I keep coming across.
Maybe it was 7 foot, but that's still big, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, we're making the video. I won't know till we go back. But even if it's 7 foot, that's still big, isn't it, as a pipe in those days?
7 foot, yeah. Even if it's 7 foot, it is big, yeah. I mean,
What they do is,
know...
we've got no industry, we're in horses and carts. Yeah, we can slap one of those up.
Yeah, I remember when they were laying...
And they'll have to be perfect, because you can't have a wonky pipe or something that's not right. They'd have to be made perfect.
Yeah. I mean,
That's why I don't
how
understand why these buildings, in their magnificence that they are, you know, this time period with these kind of buildings, well, we call them Tartaria buildings, but King Nico doesn't, does he? He says they're the fallen angels, but they were always here. But these buildings, they're just... It's hard. I just can't get my head. I can't get my head around it. It's almost like I'm telling you we started in Elizabeth I, or something really big happened then. Maybe that's the last flood around there sometimes, or even the I don't know. I think there was another one in the early 1800s. But we were so more advanced then. Were we living in peace and harmony without the Dark Ages, in peace and harmony without the Roman Empire, or it's just hard to. Or is it that what they've done is they've put this extra history in there that doesn't belong, or made it up, or made it into something. Something is the truth, but not the way they've told us. And then they've omitted like 1,000 years in another way.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like, it's like, how do we go from horses and carts with wooden wheels to this?
Yeah, I mean, this is the insanity of it all. But when you establish all these great buildings of the past, and we've got what we've known as the Dark Ages, and nothing much happened in the Dark Ages. We didn't even learn much about the Dark Ages at school because nothing much happened. But when you put it together, that there was great buildings built in prior times, and then you come back to the 1800s where there was depravity, poorness, and everything. That everybody was more or less poor. This is what we were told, like all the way through the 1800s.
Yeah,
right?
I've done something. Well, what it was, I was going to stick it in the middle. I'm going to stick it at the end of his little 2 minutes, because then everybody can see it. But you know, like when we've looked at the churches and they've got gold leaf in them, and all the statues and all the engravings and carvings and stuff like that. You know, right now we've been in this kind of lockdown where we're seeing a lot of places close up, people are losing their jobs, etc, 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 etc. So we're not suddenly going out and building things like this because there isn't the money, which now we know with all the empty everything that they had the money and they just wasted it. Wait a minute. They like leaving things abandoned all the time, abandoned hospitals, abandoned schools, abandoned everything. Abandoned cities, abandoned everything. So you wouldn't be building this kind of stuff unless you were affluent and everything was pretty damn settled, because there's so much of that stuff.
Well, I think one of the major mistakes, this is why I'm just coming to the point that throughout the 1800s, right, we're told that everybody was poor, very poor in all places. But yet when you look at all these buildings that were being attributed to being built in the 1800s, and some of these buildings are absolutely magnificent, but yet everybody's poor and nobody's really got a horse, nobody's got a car, you know, and it's like the rich people had horse and car. And you think, they built these mega buildings in the 1800s all over the world.
How did they do it, Christian? Because they've given us cowboys and Indians and all that is rubbish. And if it happened, what they're really talking about is the 1700s, not the 1800s. Then it would fit cowboys and Indians.
Sort of. I think it's maybe even earlier, maybe 14, 15, you know, or even 13, 14, because certain things that just don't add up. They don't add up.
You can't go from one thing to another. You can't go from all this back to horses and carts and cowboys and Indians and everything. This was built. This was built the early 1800s. So where are all the cowboys and Indians then?
That's where it all falls apart. The fact that unless there was but it's so hard to make sense of it because.
Where's all the cowboys and Indians if they're building structures like that?
Yeah, what happened?
It's not even just the structures and that they're in the river. Because first of all, I thought, oh, look at these little houses in the river. It's what they do. They're pumping stations.
Yeah, and I'm beginning to think that perhaps the cowboys Indian type, or just say, for argument's sake,
but you know, we've got two sides of it, because sometimes you just stumble across it. Because you know, when we were looking up piers and stuff like that before, they said they had a lot of lights on them, and this is what attracted the people, was all the electric lights. Oh yes, I want electricity. But the piers weren't made for that. The piers were made for docking ships, and that's where the people used to disembark and ships used to dock there. But they haven't told us that, have they? They've told us they're candy floss, fairground rides, and electric lights.
That's what they were turned into. That's what they were turned into. Repurposed.
Because in that sense, we'd have to be a lot more organised. You know, shipping docks, you know, 200 years ago, 300 years, whatever, you know, like, it's a lot more organised than they're saying. Remember, we've only just gone over to America, but we didn't. And we already know in other history when they keep saying that we're sailing backwards and forwards, and then you've got the Barbary ships and pirate. It's just all incredible. I mean, you know, back to what you were saying about, like, Tartaria. You've got, like, what's the Turkish one? The Ottoman Empire. So you've got this whole Ottoman Empire, which had its whole empire for hundreds of years, and at the same time, it is part of Tartaria. So how can it be amazing on its own? Because it's part of something else.
Yeah, then you had the Persian Empire, which later was followed on by the Prussian Empire. You know,
I just anyway, we can't talk forever, Christian. We've been going for 18 minutes, but we just wanted to make people think. I mean, you know, I every time an American says, "Oh my God, I'm so jealous of you with you and your history," I'm gonna have to say, you've got castles, you've got buildings probably older than us.
Yeah, but it's the
You have the history. The only thing you don't have is a queen, but you can have ours. Sorry.
But I've always said that it's these megalithic buildings that still are around today. Never mind the ones that were involved in the
I mean, they look a bit silly,
things.
don't they? There's a little Rapunzel's tower on the water. Why would they be building it in that style?
Yeah, I mean, to me that looks like the ancient world. You know, I'm talking about like. I mean, this is it. We're told.
How do they last though? You think they're all near water? And the other thing I told you the other day I found really interesting, that when things get taken into the water, they don't rot away.
Yeah.
They're still there years later.
I mean, one of the things that I've come across is the fact that we're told that the Roman Empire, these Roman buildings came first. But when you look at like that tower building, the water station there, to me that looks like ancient, right? And the Roman buildings look a lot newer, as in being erected at a later date. You know, in the time. When you look at that, these buildings are built more or less out of rock, stone rock, not brick. And you establish that
But Christian, the one thing I've been noticing in the footage is that even though these look like grey stone here, what you might find, I mean, that bottom bit looks a bit of a different colour. What you might find is that the ends of them do look like blocks, but they're only caps. They're only like they're like a, you know, when people clad their houses. It's that. It's just cladding.
Yeah.
It's not a real brick, and they're putting that on top of the real brick.
Yeah, that's what it could be. And then in a lot of cases, that's what I told you about one of the other places that we went to investigate. But they've done that in various places. I mean, we do it now in our modern day.
I mean, we're looking at the base of the you know, the Rapunzel one, and that could be brick that we're looking at there, because it's a different colour. It's a kind of pinky colour.
Yeah.
It's not like the top. The other one isn't. You can see the other one. But this one on the sides, that could be brick, but it is at least grey. But it could be because they've cladded it. Like, you never thought that they would do that, but I saw it. I've seen it in buildings. They just put those bits over the top.
Well, we know that the red brick and I can't remember what the actual initial composite number for it is, but that the red brick does something as in resonance. So perhaps they've covered the red brick to maintain it because it erodes easier than obviously the rock itself. You know?
Just say here, by the way, you can also see that when you said that guy said that maybe they built on something else, you can actually see like the remnants of steps left. Obviously it's not to walk on, but they put those in water, don't they? They put steps in. So you can see that there's obviously part of the old structure there. The pipe obviously goes that way. That's to cover the pipe and everything, maybe. I don't know. But we've got to finish, really, Christian. I was a bit like gobsmacked when I saw that little place. I thought, first of all, I thought they were little houses, you know, like, oh, let's go and have a holiday on that little house. And obviously, watching that guy's video, thank you very much, realised that it's a power station, a pumps.
Yeah, a water station. A water station, basically.
And that's led us in that the Spitforts could be water pumps, but they're pretending they're military. So that one that we did the other day, Hurst Castle, that could be a water pump.
It's not a case that they're pretending that they're military, perhaps eventually used as a military outpost, but the origin may have been that they were water stations.
Yeah, that one with the one that was Henry VIII's castle, that little round thing, that was probably one as well.
Yep.
You know what? I think your family think you're mad when you turn around and you say, well, probably in the 16 and 1700s we had electricity. We made these buildings, and they look at you like, what? They won't get it. They'll think you're crazy. When actually that's something like that happened.
Well, other researchers have said the very same thing.
And like, where did all the money come from, Christian? Remember, we've had loads of dark times with money, in the 1930s. We've had all these things going on and on and on and on. So where did they get the money to build all this?
Precisely. That is one of the things to figure out, isn't it?
And what was the thing that you were really upset about the most was that they've made the towers, but they're harnessing free water.
Yeah, and making everybody pay for it. When you could be doing that yourself. You could be doing it yourself.
Well, we're not allowed to, though, are we? You've got to have some gas or something company. You've got to have the water. You've got to be plumbed into what they want you to be plumbed into.
Connected into the matrix.
It's like we really are in an open air boot camp.
It's mad, isn't it?
And what they say is, don't forget to make them pay for every single thing. Do you know what, Christian? Listen to this. This has nothing to do with this, but the other day I bought a drink. It was a Coke, and I said, well, the price on that thing up there says, they said, sugar tax. We have a sugar tax now.
Just to make you pay more money. Instead of solving the problem, where they should address the manufacturer, they're not addressing the manufacturer, because the manufacturer is part of what they are. So they've got to make us pay extra for the sugar. It's insane.
Do you know what? I'm really hoping something drastically goes wrong soon, because it's like whoever's doing this, they're going mad.
Because people are waking up to what's really going on. That's why.
Come on, someone, save us. Hurry up, wake up, some big organisation, save us. Anyway, Christian, thank you very much for help making this video. It's all a bit bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, you're quite welcome. That's okay.
And also, the little Rapunzel one, it's almost like it's a shoe front. It slants down the front. It's not just straight down. It's like this thing has been properly engineered.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, holy schmoly.
They had to be making. You can't just say, well, I've got an idea. We could make a pumping station. Yeah, imagine how long it would take to build.
But I mean, you would never believe it to be that, but that's what it is. It is a pumping station. But my first thought was, Rapunzel, please let down your hair.
I think that'll be the name of the video. But anyway, Christian, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.